me. Well, I'm happy in Cape Breton, cause the rising cock's unbeaten, and I'll tell you what I'm eating, and it's good enough for me. Give me herring and potatoes, herring and potatoes, herring and potatoes are good enough for me. More herring and potatoes is what this country needs.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Inglis, and this afternoon on Ethnic Corner we're going to show you some Scottish cooking. And we have two ladies to help us from, now I'm going to say Northeast Marguerite, but Upper Marguerite. Upper Marguerite. We have Mrs. Kay MacKenzie and Mrs. Kay MacDonald. And we're going to make bannock and merrigan. So I think the first one that we're going to try to do is the bannock. So, do you want to tell us?
Hello, Jesha.
Hammy Jesha.
Play that.
Now we have 4 cups of flour, and we'll add a teaspoon of soda and 3 teaspoons of baking powder and a teaspoon of salt.
And what is
So
the bannock, basically? Is it a bread? Or
Yes,
It's a bread.
it's made like a biscuit dough. Only instead of cutting out biscuits, you make it in a bannock, which is a cake.
a blob, a
Yeah,
big
right.
round circle.
Yes, that's right.
So you just mix it up
Mix
like
it all up like
a bread
that.
dough.
And then we add about a half a cup to a cup of shortening.
You have to do this a few times yourself before you get it to your liking.
That's right.
Because no 2 people, I mean, we could all take the recipe for bannock and all 3 of us do it and it would come out basically the same, but it wouldn't be exactly the same. And there's different ways. This is a white bannock. You can make it with whole wheat flour as well, you know, or with bran. You know, there's variations on it.
And the size too, I suppose. How many people?
Depends on the
Depends. Like
size.
this, if they were just making it for 2 people, you could take half of this recipe and make a smaller one,
Okay.
or make a big one and freeze half of it.
And would you have it for around tea time? When I think of bannock, I think of sitting down with tea and talking and.
Yeah, so it's good. It's good
Very
anytime.
good.
It's good anytime.
Anything.
Yes.
Yes.
It was
Get it
used
just
as a,
so that it's
yes.
in small little pieces.
Mash it up. Now we're
So
gonna.
mash it up.
I imagine for having this sort of front that you're gonna bake it on.
Yes.
What would they have done before when they didn't have their ovens? When they just had the stove?
I would have baked it in the open fireplace on a griddle, and I believe there was a time when they buried it in the hot ashes.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yes, they did. Over the open flame.
Have more taste.
Additional flavor.
That's right.
Well, it would be clean.
Sin kaint of mackerel.
Oh, hashin.
Now we'll add a cup and a half to 2 cups of, could be buttermilk or sour milk. So,
And just stir it.
and stir it, yes.
And this is something you,
And you could add an egg or 2 eggs or
some people add raisins to it.
raisins.
Oh, that would
yes.
be. What do you put on the top of it? Jam or butter or
Oh, usually butter.
molasses?
Molasses.
Like molasses, bannock and molasses.
Kind of that.
Hello.
Dog in Scotland, bannock and molasses.
Molasses. More milk.
I suppose you learned how to do it by just watching your mother.
That's
right.
right.
Yes. It's kind of hard to judge. You just have to work at it. I think you do need
I
more.
think I need a little more. More depth.
I'm telling you, it's quite sticky. Are you going to need that when you get it finished?
Okay, you need it for a while, but sometimes
Oh, not
they
very
not
much.
that
You
very
just
much.
kinda-
No, it's not like bread.
No,
dough.
no, no. You just knead it a few times to get it in a kind of a solid
Yes.
dough, and then you.
So if you go to Scotland, it's basically going to be the same bannock as you have in Cape Breton.
Yes, but
Same.
the best bannock I ever ate was over in South Uist. And I got the recipe from them, and I came home and I made it, and it was the worst thing you ever ate. So that goes to show you.
That's right. So
There's a certain knack to it.
Yeah, here. It's rolled out here.
Yes. Just put some.
Flour on to.
See, all you do is just
Pat it.
Pat it up till you get it all
I
together.
suppose that would be kind of, I know even if you're out camping or you're out outdoors, you can
Oh, that would be
stick it
very
on
easy.
the fire.
Yes, you could.
A little sticky, you would just put a little, so we just pat it down with this. You could use a rolling pin, but today we're just gonna pat it down.
Well, if you're in a hurry, this is the way to do
This is
it.
the way.
Would you have that often?
Oh, yes, you could have it. It's sort of
Is that
like a
something that you have
supplement to bread.
So it's something you have quite regularly?
Oh, yes.
You can score it in serving pieces or
Big knife.
Oh,
knife.
we have a big knife here.
Skin, I could
Scan it, did I?
Okay.
No,
Perhaps we could use a spoon.
Use
The
the
end,
spoon.
yeah, just
You
sort
just
of.
make the...
Make it sort of.
Now, what are you going to have to cook it in the oven at what temperature?
375 for about 25 minutes. Some use the fork to,
Yes.
Pat
no,
it.
not the,
Not the
we
clay
better
pipe.
not touch the clay pipe.
Oh, that was a good story.
Yes.
So we'll let you put it in the oven.
Okay, we can put it in the oven, and then we can start our marinade. Okay,
This mess off there.
And just watch the timings.
for about 15,
Can we
20
take
minutes.
some of this off? Or?
Another recipe for bannock.
So we can give them the recipe
Yeah.
at the end of the...
Too bad you should tell the story of the clay pipe.
Oh, you tell us. You're the one that had the
He
story.
said yes.
I think that's a good story.
In the olden days, all the ladies used to smoke clay pipes. And this man one day came to visit this lady, and she was making a bannock. And every now and then she'd take a little whiff out of her pipe and lay it down. So he said, you might as well wait until the bannock is finished, and I'll make you a nice cup of tea. So he said, that's fine. He made himself very comfortable. So after a while, she had the bannock like I had so there, and she took the pipe out of her mouth and she made holes in it. So the man was long gone.
He didn't even wait
He
for
didn't
tea.
wait for the tea. So that's what we said. We don't have the clay pipe today.
No. Guess we won't use it.
Okay, now we're going to try our American, and I find this very interesting. So if you just wanted to explain what's involved and what we're using and how we're going to put everything together.
Well, American is, it's called a pudding, but actually it's like a sausage, and it's made from the casings, the intestines of an animal, usually the cow or the sheep. And you use suet and oatmeal and onions.
So that's what you
Right.
have in the
Yes,
bowl.
yes,
we
we
have
have
in
in the
here.
bowl. And salt and pepper. And then you have the, maybe we'll mix that up. We have the casings here in our apparatus to
Okay.
fill them. So perhaps it'd be a good idea to go
Just
ahead and
Get the filling ready. I
Yeah,
guess.
we have 3.5 cups of oatmeal and 2 cups of suet and 2 cups of onions. Right now,
Suet.
in this.
the onions
suet.
are finely,
They're
very finely
chopped.
chopped.
And the
And the
suet
suet
is
is about like this.
Yeah, maybe. So would you chop that up more finely?
No,
Not really,
No, I don't
no.
think so. Because if you chop it too fine, it melts away, and you know it gets soggy.
So I guess you'd put more suet or more oatmeal in according if you want a moist sausage or a pudding
No,
or
they're all supposed to be pretty much the same
pretty much the
consistency.
same. Yes.
Okay.
Because when they're boiled, you have to boil them after they're finished.
Because actually what we have here is a recipe for making a lot of American.
That's right.
And we just took a quarter of it to make enough, you know, to show on the...
So now what are we going to do
So
with
now to that, we
filling?
add a teaspoon of pepper for this amount
this
that we,
amount,
and a teaspoon of salt. And then you try and get it all sort of soft that you can get it.
Yeah. See, if you were at home, you could warm up the suet, you know.
That's
if we had
right.
time, we could warm up
Yes.
the suet, and it would make it a little easier to
Yeah, I
handle.
suppose if made in
You
the
could-
summer, you put it out in this nice
Yeah.
warm
You
place
could
where...
set the bowl in a pan of warm water or something for a
yes.
time, and it would soften it. So
Besides,
we could use a little bit of water. We don't always use it, but today,
To make it
yes,
so we can handle
so
it.
we can handle.
so when you think you're using the suet, which is one part of the animal, and you're using your casing, the Scotch are kind of waste not, want not.
Yes, well, this goes back to the old days when they were very, very poor, you know, crofters, and when they did butcher an animal, and animals were very valuable, they used everything. Like there's the white, these are what you call the white mannequin. And then there was also the black mannequin, which were made blood puddings. They were made using the blood of the animal and oatmeal. That's an entirely different thing. There's also Eastman, which was another different thing. If we want to talk about that later, we can. And then, of course, they made the haggis when they butchered the sheep.
So they didn't waste...
No, they didn't waste anything.
And the oatmeal is kind of interesting. I suppose oatmeal was a staple. You think of oatmeal porridge and
Yes, oat cakes
cakes
and all sorts of... Of course, you had many uses.
so they had all the
Eat your
basic...
vodka.
Yes, porridge.
Yes.
Oatmeal porridge. Well, that's beginning to look...
Yes.
It's
It's
beginning
better
to look
now.
better now, yes.
I suppose it would have to be quite soft if you're going to
It
stuff
would
it
to
into
stuff
the
it in.
casing.
But like we said, if the suet should be a little softer.
Yes, then that...
About how
Does
many...
that look like
How
a little
much
more?
pudding are we going to get out of that approximately?
This should make
Three?
three
Three?
sizes. Yes.
But usually they would make a couple of pounds.
Well, I don't know how they, maybe if you were doing it professionally, you'd be able to, you know, to, it's kind of hard to be exact,
That's
Yeah.
right.
especially when you haven't made it for a long
That's
time.
right.
But they are delicious. She will find out.
Can you,
Yeah.
now to store them, when they're made, do you have to, I think of sausage or pudding hanging up
You
on
can freeze them.
racks. Can you
You
freeze
can
them?
freeze them. Well, after you stuff them, they have to be boiled, simmered for about, what, a couple of hours, Kate?
Couple of hours.
Couple of
yes.
hours.
Yeah, simmered.
Simmered.
Slow.
And then after that, and when you're simmering them, you have to be very, very careful to prick them with a needle because they expand.
Oh, they'll
Yes.
explode.
And you might have an explosion on
You
your
have
hands.
porridge in the pot.
Yes. See, we won't have time to do that, you know, on this show, but that's what will be done.
I think that's
That looks
That
like
looks
good.
all
So now what?
So these
Yeah.
are the cooing.
cooing.
These are the casings.
Oh, so
And we
how,
cut them in lengths.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess the best way to really to do it is use your hands.
That's right.
Yeah, the old-fashioned way of putting the mattock in like this, and you.
yeah. Well, you have it
Yeah,
set
I have.
quite
See,
a bit
this one is. See,
stuffed.
this one is kind of short.
So it seems to be almost
See,
finished
it's almost
now.
finished now. So now we'll just get a piece of string and tie it.
Okay?
We'll let you do that
Oh,
stuff.
good. I think I
So
can.
you see, this is just going to be a short one because it so happened that the piece of casing was
That's
shorter,
right.
shorter than we thought it was, but it's just.
So you just keep stuffing them, and then
Yeah,
I
well-
suppose if it was long, you tie it a couple places. And
Well, if it was
No,
a-
just both ends.
Oh,
really.
that's, but you
Yeah,
wouldn't want one too long,
Yeah.
you know.
and
They'd be
as
too up or too.
you said, you have to be careful how full you.
Yes, you don't want to stuff them too full because they, when you steam them, they expand. So when you put them in, what you actually do is boil them, simmer them. Yeah.
Okay, and
Now, do
then
you want to show them the one that's complete?
so this is what it looks like when you've.
After it's been steamed, that's the mattock.
It's just like a
How would you
sauce.
steam them? About 2 hours, Kay? Yeah.
About an hour and a half
About
to
an
2
hour and
hours.
a half to 2
yes.
hours, if you had a big pot of them.
That's right, yes.
And then you can either cook it on top of the stove in a frying pan or heat it in the oven, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to heat it in the oven. So shall I?
cut it up.
Slice it,
Give me
yes.
a glove.
Meal graph.
About like that, I guess.
These slices. How would now? Would this be your main meal?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
You'd have this with potatoes and
Okay.
vegetables and
Turnips and
turnips and bannock.
bannock. Delicious
Okay.
with bannock.
So kind of got a little bit there. There,
So I
that's
guess
it.
we'll have to take our bannock out of the oven so
Yeah.
I can smell it before we put our marigate in. Okay, we'll check the bannock and
Try that.
Right, ma.
Paprika.
nice. Sounds like a tea biscuit.
Yes, very much the same.
And
Some
you
people
have
say they're first
I have,
cousins.
I have this. I have
some
this.
heated.
We
some
started to
heated
eat
marigate.
some, so we'll put the rest in here with this, and we'll put it back in the oven. And
Now, how long are you going to leave it?
put it in at 350 for about
Are these
20 minutes.
20
or something.
minutes.
20 minutes or
are
something.
these marigate done? We could put them on a plate and then cook the rest.
I don't know. I don't
Leave
think
them for another
I don't
little
think they're
while.
quite ready.
Okay.
There. So there's the finished product.
So the Gaelic were very thrifty in everything they did, from using their
Yes.
oatmeal in every
Well, they had to
ingredients
be.
and
In the old days, and there was everything was used in when they butchered.
That's right, yeah. Even the heads.
Yes,
Head
they even used
cheese.
to make the head cheese. Yes, and the
Do they still make
Corn.
marigate around Cape Breton now?
oh yes,
Oh, yes.
sure they do.
So they still go through all the problems of
Yes.
stuffing it in?
I don't. A lot of people make them and get the casings like we did. You buy the casings already. They're
Already.
clean and everything.
And prepare.
But there are still people throughout the country that
Yeah.
butcher and make their mannequins.
Still, yes.
And you can buy the artificial casings too.
Yes,
can't
you can.
I don't think they're as good. I don't think they have the same flavor.
They wouldn't, no. I
No.
don't think so.
Would you eat it at any special time? Like I know the easement you would eat at
The
Christmas
Easter
time.
was Christmas time.
Christmas time, yes.
And that was made out of the large intestine
That's
of
right.
the beef.
Beef, yes.
And what would go into that now? I'm
Well,
trying to
like
remember.
steak or
Very
nice
good, a very good cut of beef.
of beef, yes. And you chop it up small or put it through the chopper, but
Yes.
and you put onions and salt and pepper.
Flavor.
By flavor, yes. Some puts a little oatmeal in,
Yes.
but
that
they're
you-
delicious. You'll have to let
now
them.
that you aged.
Yeah, you aged.
So
You
you'd
didn't boil
hang
them.
it up or you just let them?
For probably 6 weeks
Oh,
to
yes.
or longer.
As long as you wanted to.
And then you'd boil them and just slice them.
The
and
same
that's
way
The
as
same way.
They sort of came out with a gravy on it.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
That
Well,
was a Christmas treat.
to have your...
Yes, Eastman.
Well, Kay MacDonald had mentioned before, the oatmeal is so, Kay MacKenzie brought some oat cakes with us, and when I think of Cape Breton, and I know when I was away and used to come home, that's what my mom always used to make was the oat cakes.
So
Do you
there-
have some recipes to give?
Yes,
No?
we
Yes,
do. We
we
have them over there.
Okay.
This is the Scotch oat cakes. This is one recipe for, that's the one that
That's
you
for
made.
that, yes.
So shall I give them the recipe for this?
I think while we're waiting for the marigate.
Yes, well, for
right.
these, 2 cups of rolled oats, and 2 cups of bran flakes, and 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of white sugar, 1 cup of butter, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of soda dissolved in a half cup of warm water. And then you measure them all into a bowl and cut the butter in with a pastry blender.
That's
or with your
right,
hands,
with the
yes.
blender.
or with your
That's the
hands,
same.
whatever way you want to do it, and then you stir in the liquid and roll them out, and you cut them in squares, or you can get
Rounds
fancy.
or
And
whatever.
If you want to get fancy, you can cut them with fancy cookie cutters, and you bake them around 350,
Around 350.
just until they're brown. This is one of those recipes that there's no exact
No, that's
times.
right.
So that was for that. That was for the Scotch, for those Scotch oat cakes. And then the bannock that Kay made, 4 cups of flour,
I'm going to try a piece while you're talking.
2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and it says 5 tablespoons of shortening, but you can use what?
You
About
can use-
how much?
Up to a cup.
Up to a cup.
Depends on what
Yeah.
you, yes.
And you can also add an egg.
Yes.
and from 1½ to 2 cups of sour milk. And you saw how Kay did it. You put the first 5 ingredients in the bowl, then you cut in the shortening, and you can blend in the milk and egg together and mix quickly and roll out and place on a cookie sheet and bake until golden brown, about 25 minutes, wasn't it?
About
How is it?
25 minutes.
And it tastes good.
It's good.
So that was the banach.
And do you think American would
Yeah.
be ready now?
Now, I will give, by the time we give the recipe, it'll be ready.
Done.
Now this recipe came from, I may as well say where it came from, Loch Lomond, and they make wonderful maddock in there. When I was in Boston, the Scotch Presbyterian Church up there, they used to have a maddock supper every year till it got to the point they couldn't handle how many people came. It was one of the ladies from Loch Lomond that gave me this recipe, and it makes, if you want to make a lot of maddock, and like we cut it down to, to a quarter of the recipe because we weren't going to do, just going to do a little bit today. So it calls for 14 cups of fine oatmeal. And if you had rolled oats, you could grind it. If you wanted to use the rolled oats, you could
So it
grind
has
it.
to be fine.
Yeah. 8 cups of onions, chopped quite fine, and 8 cups of suet, also chopped fairly fine. 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of pepper. And it also says you may add a tablespoon of poultry seasoning, or some people add sage if you want that sort of flavor to it. And that makes, I don't know, that makes quite a lot. I can't tell you, but that would make quite a lot of maddock.
It would.
Yes, and then when
See
you
the
do
what
that,
we have
you
today
tie
was
them,
quite-
and
Small.
Yeah.
you stuff them and tie them, and then you simmer them for an hour and a half,
And
2
prick
hours.
them.
And be sure to, after they start boiling, to prick them. Otherwise, you'll have an explosion on your hands. And then, and after you've boiled them, like if you make a whole lot of them, you can keep them in the freezer. You can freeze them and keep them until you're ready to eat them, and then you would take them out and thaw them and cut them up and bake them either on top of the stove. Some people like to cut them in smaller pieces and fry them, but I like them cut in bigger pieces and baked in the oven, and they don't get as dry. It's all a matter of preference.
That's right.
So that's our.
That was I think a lot of people would find it interesting, especially since in Cape Breton we know there's so much Gaelic and there's the Scottish culture, and it's nice to know some of the recipes that they do have from our ancestors that we've carried down.
Of course, all these things will, like everybody that makes maddock will have their own, their own little special way of doing it. Same as making banach or making oat cakes, everybody will have their own recipe as well. But they're all basically the same.
And do you think, let's try American.
Shall we have a look at the maddock? Oops. Those first ones we put in already.
Yeah, I think so.
So shall we put them on the plate?
I think so, and we'll be ready for a Kaylee or whatever. We
you
have
want-
enough
Want me
food.
to bring
Yes,
over a
we
plate?
want to get one of those small plates over there, and
So-
the ones that are, the first ones we put in, we'll use, and then we'll put the others in.
Let's see.
See, I hope they're hot right here. We can try a couple. Those are cooked ones here. But the last ones that we put in here have to be cooked some more. So sinna
Sinna na maddakan.
agus banach agus an coiche.
Na gleichnis klinkt weiche Landje, gleichnis klinkt blij. Een driechterschen wie maar een pintje, kom een krinje perlijn. En je legend je van greine perlen heen die tafel. En bijna heine mist na zijn, een feitje van een galig. Na gleichnis klinkt weiche Landje, gleichnis klinkt blij. Van driechterschen wie maar een pintje, kom een krinje perlijn.